Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm going to give you a demonstration on how to maintain your RV's batteries. Hopefully you find this interesting. I'm going to try to do this on a step-by-step basis and show you all the little things you should probably check to help you out and potentially save you some money from having to outsource it to your local RV dealer. So let me get this set up and I will discuss it. This is something that I strongly recommend to do as a periodic maintenance for reasons that I'll tell you a little bit later in the video. I find it sometimes is easier just to pull the batteries out to work on a bench, though for the most part you can do this in place. So I will physically remove the batteries and put them on a bench to show you a little more step-by-step on what I do to prepare the battery. So first thing first, safety. You want to make sure your RV is unplugged from any power outlets. I do have a 30 amp plug here in my garage, which I keep my RV plugged into almost all the time. Keeps the converter powered up to keep the batteries at a good state of charge. So if you don't take it off, then even with the batteries disconnected, you'll still have 12 volts at these things, and you run a risk of shorting something out and causing potentially a fire or even worse, an explosion. So it's just best practice to make sure the RV is unplugged first. And then second thing I like to do is I will turn off the power switch or the battery disconnect switch. Mine's here just inside the door. Just hit it and then try turning on the light. You can see nothing comes on, I guess. So I know this thing has been completely killed, so it's safe to work on. So I have a Class C motorhome. It's a Thor Outlaw. Batteries on most Class Cs, the ones with the van bodies, are kept underneath the steps of your entry door. It may vary by model. I know on mine, this is where it's at, and I've seen quite a few other Class Cs with them in this location. On a Class A, it could be in one of the storage bins along the perimeter of the body. That's generally where I've seen those. And on travel trailers, they can be anywhere on the tongue, and maybe in a battery box, or even in one of the storage bays along the perimeter of your trailer. So just take time, find your battery. This is really a relatively simple maintenance that anybody can do, and it will save you some money that you don't have to take it to your RV dealer or whatnot to do. So on the Class C, on mine, there's a little latch right here you just lift up, making sure you can see it, and you can. Just lift it up, give it a quick half turn or quarter turn, half turn. You can see it just folds back, and then it'll lift up, and then you can see the batteries. One thing I don't like is that this lid is screwed down on a hinge, and there's really no easy way to keep it propped up. I found this using two half-inch drive extensions or bar. I mean, just use something that's roughly 9 inches long, give or take. You can just stick this up, and I find I can just stick the thing here, and then on the side it'll hold it up and it won't fall down, so it makes it convenient to work on. I had previously, last year when I worked on this, I put zip ties on the wires that went to any of the negative posts. Just wanted to make sure I didn't inadvertently hook up a positive wire to a negative thing and having something wired in reverse, because that can cause some serious electronics damage on many systems. So it's just good practice to make sure you know which ones, and you're pretty confident which ones are negative and positive. So you can see on this one right here, there's a zip tie hanging on it, and then also right here on this wire here as well. So both of these that go to the negative battery post, the one here on the left on this right battery, are my negative ones. So I generally, when I deal with batteries, I will usually remove the negative terminals first. I believe it tends to spark less and or creates less arc. So my batteries, they're using the threaded studs to hold these ring terminals down. You can see there's also conventional battery posts that are not being used, right here, right here, right here, and right there. The studs are kind of nice. It does hold things a little bit more securely. On mine, the threads are, or the nut's a 1/2 inch nut. So just you can grab a 1/2 inch socket or a 1/2 inch box end wrench and just take them off. So you just loosen them up a couple turns and you can reach in and take them off. And then you can just pull up your wires off of the terminal. This one coming up from underneath, I just kind of tuck it up underneath so it's out of the way. The other one is actually a jumper cable to connect the negative terminals to each battery to hook them up in parallel so the system will stay at 12 volts. If you have a 6-volt system, it could be wired a little bit differently. They'd be in series. You'd find some of the batteries would have negatives to positives to have 2 6-volts come together as a 12-volt source. And then if you have 6 4-volt batteries, you would have 2 like that, and then they would then, as a unit, if you imagine the 2 batteries as one battery that's connected together, then you would have them connected in parallel, negative, negative, positive, positive. That way you don't jump to 24 volts if you did that. So you want to make sure everything stays at the 12-volt level, otherwise you run a serious risk of damaging your DC systems on your RV. So I'm going to remove this other terminal. And lift it out. You can see it's just a jumper wire. Like I said, I put a zip tie on here because I know this is a negative terminal. Probably doesn't really matter. I believe, hindsight 2020, both of my terminal jumper wires look to be about the same length, but I'm just trying to put it back the way the manufacturer originally put it. No rhyme or reason to it. Then just like removing the negative, now I've got the negatives disconnected, same principle. I can go in and remove the positives. Same principle. I just tuck the wires coming up from underneath out. This other wire is a jumper. And another reason I like to take the negatives off first is that if you did the positives first, you run the risk of the chassis still being grounded, because basically the metal frame is being connected to the whole RV is being connected to ground. And like this one jumper wire, if I would have touched this spot right here with the positive still hooked, or the negative still hooked up, I would probably be arcing out and really causing some serious damage, if not a fire. So like I said, it's just good practice to do that. And then you can just pull out the negative one, you see, or the positive one. You can see, like I said, they appear to be the same thing, so it really kind of indifferent if you mark them or not. It doesn't really make a difference. However, the one that comes up from underneath the coach, you definitely want to mark that one, because you don't want to inadvertently have the coach wired up backwards. And then I have 3 wires coming off here from the side of my steps that are coming up in individual wires. Most of these are going to the on-off switch, the battery disconnect switch. So I will just push these up out of the way. I can just tuck them up here on the side just to keep them up out of the way. And then you'll see there's 2, on my particular model, they use these nylon cinch straps to tie the batteries down to the battery boxes. So I'm just untying where they're tied up here just to secure the excess. And then pushing down, I'll show you once I take it out, but pushing down on the release strap and then just jiggling the hooks off. Mine use little hooks, so you can see it's just a strap like this. Has these 2 eye hooks on there. There's an equatable, or a hole at the bottom that these things is hooked to, and then you would just cinch it, but you can push here on this little thing here just to release the tension to allow you to take it off. Once you get them both off, then all you got to do is pull the batteries out. It's a little snug, but they should pull right out of the opening, and then you can then service them. So I will stop here and then I will reconvene once I move the batteries. Okay, so I've pulled the batteries out of the RV and moved them over here to my little workbench. Really, it's just the back of my golf cart that has a foldable back seat, but it works pretty well for the purpose here. Gave it a quick cleaning with a simple green water mixture just to get majority of the dust, dirt, and grime off the tops of the batteries. Just to help facilitate showing on these things, I'm going to pop this little battery thing off. There's a little tang right here. You can see it's as easy just to pop a little small screwdriver in here, pull it back, give it a couple wiggles, and it'll try it again. Pull it back, just give it a couple wiggles and it'll pop through just like that. So taking those out of the way allows me to take off these 4 water access ports to get access to the cells themselves. Just use this little pry tool. Picked it up at an auto parts store many years ago. It just works really well for getting up in the air and just popping these little things off. Screwdriver will work fine too. So once you get these things off, the first thing you're going to want to look at, and I'll move the camera just a little bit closer to see if we can actually see, is you want to look down these individual cells. You'll see and I'm wearing gloves so it's because of the acid, you'll see just an opening here which kind of opens up on the bottom, and then the actual cells are below that. You want to make sure the water and acid mixture is up to at least the bottom of this tube, and you can see all of these are already at that level. I did that before turning the camera on. Just wanted to give you a point, show you that as a point of reference. If they are a little bit low, you're going to want to use distilled water. Pick it up anywhere. You don't want to have anything that has any additional minerals in it to just top off any of these cells. So a good way, specialized tool if you want one, to help tell if the general state of health of your battery is one of these professional battery hydrometers. If OTC makes this. You can pick it up at Amazon or some auto parts store. This is the actual tool itself. You can see it's basically a syringe ball thing here, and then it's got a built-in hydrometer which measures the specific gravity or the density of your liquid. You'll see there's some color codings. When you fill it up, ideally at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, today's about 75 degrees, so it's close enough. If it's in the green range, if it'll float up and the green is above the line of the liquid, it's considered it to be good, in good condition. That works out to about 1.277, 278, give or take, a specific gravity. If it goes down to the 1.225, so between 277 and 225 is what it calls okay, which means you've got a general good state of health on your battery. And if it fails to leave the red, generally means your cell is basically compromised, and the batteries probably need to be considered for replacement sooner than later. So you can use this tool. You just simply, it's like a turkey baster. You can reach in, put it on top of the cell, and allow it to bring in some water. You'll see the hydrometer, it'll float to its level, and you can see on this one, I am just in the green, probably just on the hairy edge between green and white. Don't need to do a temperature correction for this just because I'm really close to 80 degrees, so we're within like 0.0011002, give or take, so it's close enough. You can go and test each individual cell And you can see this one is within the green, so generally pretty good. Few of these, when I tested them a little bit earlier, like this one is right on the edge of green and white, so you can see this cell is starting to get a little on the marginal side. One that I will point out, a little bit of a concern, is like this one here. You can see basically just in the red. This cell is a little bit of a problematic, and shame on me, but last year when I checked the batteries, I didn't remove them. And if you remember this particular cell, this was the battery on the right, this particular cell was up underneath the floor. So I couldn't get in there to test the water level. And when I pulled this battery out for this demonstration, I realized that that cell had gotten pretty low. So it may have caused some irreparable damage to that cell. I generally use this more or less in a plug-in mode. Maybe once in a while we'll park out at a Walmart or even a casino overnight just en route somewhere, which is the only time that I really need the battery. So for the purposes of what I need for this year, this cell will be marginal, okay enough to use, I think. However, I'm probably going to have to plan to replace both these batteries next winter. Once done, once you know your battery's topped off, you check the cells if you want. You just pop these covers back on. Real simple. You just held on with friction. And then once that's done, one of the last things I like to do is take a wire brush, even though there's nothing obvious on this one, but just to take the time, make sure there's no corrosion. The battery posts aren't used. My RV uses the ring terminals over here held down by a bolt. So I'm just going to go through and make sure there's no corrosion built up on any of these studs. Like I said, it's just a little bit of preventive maintenance to make sure you've got good contact. And then just simply you can pop these on. You didn't have to take them off. I took these off just to make it a little clearer for this demonstration. But like I said, it's pretty easy to pop them off, so it's figured why have them in the way if you don't need them, right? So that's how you check and clean up and prepare your batteries for the next camping season. So can do this multiple times a year. I would recommend, depending on how much you use the RV, do it probably every 6 months. Then just remove the little prop thing that I used to take it away, and then just re-secure that half turn, lock down. This is now secure, and then you can test by turning your use switch back on. Mine's right here on the left, so I turn it on, and you can just snap and turn the lights on. You can see once again you have 12 volts to the lights, and everything should be good to go. So that's it. That's how you maintain and check your batteries. Hope you found this useful. Anything else? I have several other videos that I'm in the process of making. Hopefully I'll have up here soon, or you can check out some of my articles, whatnot, on rvtricks.com. Thank you.